Welcome back to another episode of the World Through Zen Eyes podcast. I'm Young Sunim here with...
And I'm Dr. Ruben Lambert.
It's been, as the kids say, a hot minute.
A hot minute, yeah. A little hiatus.
Or is it a cold minute?
Well, some of you might be feeling a little cold because you haven't gotten the warmth of our wisdom and our compassion.
Oh,
so
boy.
Here we are back again.
I think I just sunk in this chair a little bit under the weight of your words.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder. So if you've been yearning for some nuggets of wisdom, here we are ready to transmit.
There you go. We have been absent from our microphones, but we haven't been.
We've been
absent.
still talking, right? We've been still talking.
Haven't been
spreading the
absent
word
from live
and teaching others, but
we've just been absent from this particular venue and this particular way of sharing. So we were trying to come up with a topic.
Mm-hmm.
And what better than things that are pertinent to the here and now, as close to the here and now as one could get, I guess. And so for a title, if you will. Now, this is also rather unusual for us to have a title prior to. Usually we do the thing and then AI generates a title for us.
Right.
But something akin to...
We're using natural intelligence now instead of artificial intelligence, right? No red dye 212 today.
Well, don't get me started on the differences of what is artificial and what is natural intelligence. So that could be a topic in and of itself. Let's see. Something clever, right? Okay. There is no... selfless caring. Right? Now, coming out of the mouth of the Zen monks or the mouth of the abbot of a temple, to say that there's no such thing as selfless caring, it's clickbait. Because we have
link to find out more.
Click the thing. Yes, subscribe.
Sign up for the newsletter.
Sign up for the newsletter and
put your information in, and we'll send you some emails.
What do I mean by that there's no such thing as selfless caring? And those of you who are close to the Zen Center, you know that as the Sangha, we've been praying and thinking and doing the positive vibes and doing the prayer services and doing all sorts of tending and caring on every dimension of our daily lives. That is physically tending to, emotionally reaching out and reaching out through the powerful vehicle of prayer on account of our Shindo Hwejang, the Shindo president of our Sangha, having spent several weeks now in a hospital post a rather significant surgery and some complications afterwards. And so obviously the between the holidays and between general philosophy of closeness, camaraderie, familyship, and caring, we always hear and talk about caring and how it's such a selfless act. And I'd like to put a Zen wrench into those gears.
I can see the cogs in the wheel
You see
of the machine
right,
slowly
screeching to a halt. Yeah,
smoke starting to come, sparks flying everywhere.
You know, it's a bit of a contortion, but so okay. let's start with the usual kind of, we could say, uh, perspective on caring for somebody else, right? Um, and it's a perhaps done out of necessity, and one is maybe forced into that position. And so the initial sort of stage one of caring is where one is to, as best as one can, tend to the other person with all of their might. And as such, the lofty goal then becomes forgetting yourself. Forget yourself in the tending to others, right? And that is viewed as this high spiritual refinement of the way of caring for somebody else. It's a selfless act, and we frequently then position it and buttress it with the philosophy of what is your true self, what are you in fact. Sometimes the bastardized concept of no self, as we know it so well within the
Somehow
Buddhist
that
traditions.
leaks his way into
It's
the.
always there somewhere.
He
Yeah.
finds his way makes his way to the party, uninvited, but
Yes.
always gets in
Yes.
through the back door somehow, or bribes the bouncer with
Yeah.
$50 just to get in.
Yeah. And so this idea of no self or caring to for another in a selfless way is in fact stage one of some goal in our spiritual growth, right? By nature, human beings are egocentric, self-centered. And I don't mean this, in some extreme way, narcissistic kind of drown in the waters of your own reflection type of way. I mean, by nature, we are narcissistic. By nature, not the diagnosable levels of narcissism, but by the humanity of us as we are. And it's...
Well, I think it's built into our biology, right?
Right.
There was a specific, I think, design that had a driving force towards tending to the self. Hence why, things like the brain needs sugar as fuel. So when you eat something that's sweet, my goodness, your tongue just, it's like rainbows and butterflies and stars, right? It dances there. And then you can look at the sex drive, right? There's clearly a pleasure that's designed there
to perpetuate more of me into the world. This
maybe,
world needs more
maybe
me's.
there would be no self-cloning, right? If there was no incentive behind that, right? And so, you can look at
it's the more permanent
biology,
selfie.
Right? There's pleasure and then there's pain too, right? When you look at hunger, I think in Oriental medicine, it's literally defined as pain.
Pain,
right? And so, me feels pain must make the pain go away, right? So,
it's a self-preservation mechanism. The egoism, in this context,
there's
as a natural,
function.
necessary, right? It of course becomes problematic when it goes out of control, when it overrides everything else, and morality and ethics and all these other principles being overridden by the gaping vacuumous hole of self-want. But we're talking about just general self-preservation thing. So we strive to tend to the needs of others selflessly. Forget your own needs. I have, and this talk about the evolutionary element of our spiritual growth. I wonder if I have it in my phone. There was a time where my focus sort of was focusing on this overriding self, right? As a perhaps sought after quality this forcing upon oneself selflessness. And I had written this this thing as my own kind of a Kido Chukwan type of thing. And I'm not seeing it here, and I don't want to keep everybody.
It served as like a reminder for you to
like a prayer.
reflect.
Yeah, like a self prayer. And it seems to fit so much the topic. And as everybody knows, we don't prepare for any of these topics. Perhaps I'll go and it's probably hanging in my thing. Well, you fill in the time. I'll be right back.
All right.
Say something wise.
All right. This is a fortune cookie moment. Let's grab the fortune cookie. Let's crack it, and let's see what the wise quote of the day is. Well, I think this topic of giving and compassion and selfless giving versus selfish giving, I think is a very pertinent topic, an important topic, because what I kept on thinking is what happens when one gets into the realm of extremes, where the holic component gets added to the giving, where you can be a workaholic, where you're giving so much and you're essentially giving to the point where you lose. What is the exchange there? The person who's the workaholic, sure, they're giving so much to their job, to whatever service their job brings into the world, but what is the cost? Oftentimes it costs them their health, number one, and number two, who are you neglecting? Are you neglecting certain relationships in your life that you also have a duty to tend to? So they're sometimes with this tending to others, and we can talk about this maybe a little bit further down, is what is the stress that results from this? And oftentimes in psychology we talk about caregiver stress and things of that nature.
Yeah, so
right?
is caring and giving then absolutely synonymous with giving away? See, there's such a, for the lack of a better word, capitalist thought here. Giving equates, as you know, you go to a store and you give, let's say, money, and you get something
in return.
There's a loss
Exchange.
of one thing, and a hope to get something else. But essentially, it's a giving away of something, and that idea of to give something, and then you are at a loss of that thing you had given, is not only very tied to the tangible world we live in, but also to the principles and the sort of paradigm of things which we are trained and practiced in valuing. So it's a thing, and that thing has a value, and if I give that thing of said value, I'm expecting a return of either similar, or in comes human greed, a higher value. Yeah.
Right. Then you're satisfied if it's a
Right.
high, it's of equal or higher.
You made a deal. It's a good deal.
But then exactly what you're describing, don't you think these are, or I feel these are the components then that start to create the breakdown in the human psyche, in the person's well-being, because of all of those components that are involved in this exchange. Number one, the person's giving something that has value. And the second thing is they're expecting something in return. So if I'm giving, something is being depleted from me. Something is being sucked out of me.
Right.
And number two, I'm going to be looking for the return. There's an expectation that's created there. In my experience, when I see people really performing at an optimal level, where they are performing some task or some duty, and they tend to not really feel burnout, is when they don't have this psychological heaviness on their mind.
Yeah.
Right? So you could have two people performing the same action, and when a person is thinking, oh my goodness, I have to give of my time to this individual who all they do is return back to me as grumpiness and things like that. Right, already right there at that very moment.
It's calculating.
That mindset is it's a heavy, heavy, heavy lift. Whereas another person can look at that same individual. They might be elderly. It could be a parent or grandparent, and they feel compassion, and they're not thinking about what they're sucking out of them, right? Sort of like a mother when she's pregnant and the child eats of her blood.
Yeah.
You know, she eats from the umbilical cord. They're not calculating all of those things. They're filled with joy when
A
they
burden
touch.
carried lightly.
It's a burden carried lightly because of the mindset, right?
Right.
And even when the person's grumpy, they don't attach that. They don't look at that, right? Because they understand maybe that person is not feeling well. They're feeling sick, and I'm not doing it for this thank you or I love you or money or whatever it is. It really leaves the person feeling free of the. See, you want to then at that moment, when someone's grumpy, you want to direct to them some negativity. But in essence, even when you step away from that moment, I've seen in people, they didn't detach, they didn't let go of that moment. They still carry, like, I can't believe they didn't pay me for this action. I can't believe after all the hard work that I put in, they
didn't say thank you.
My goodness, you come here like that. You never spend enough time with me and this or that, right? So they still carry this heavy, heavy load on their
it
emotional
is the
burden and
calculating.
The calculating.
That's why I said the kind of capitalist, exchange calculation of exchange rates, and there's a time when that's in daily matters when that's a thing. But from the Zen perspective, there's no fortune earned. When the mind is calculating mind, there's no fortune earned because everything is brought to an equated state. There's my action equals your response to it. It's a closed transaction. It's finished. Pardon me. It's finished and there's no karmic remainder. So when it comes to Kongdok, and Pokdok, the Kongdok being the fortune that we take into future lives, and Pokdok being the one that we use up. Whether you use it up or not in this life, it stays in this life and doesn't follow you. So there's that one element of it. And so there's a natural greed for wanting a echo of your actions to come to you. And so this sort of, like I said, this sort of phase one or stage one or level one of the Zen approach to caring for another is to try and think of it in a selfless fashion. Right now, I did take a picture of that thing. I don't remember how long ago I had written this. And it's sort of that kind. It's Chabisim Suheng. Chabisim is the compassionate mind. Suheng is training. So this is what I titled it to be. And says, remember, your Chamna is never tired. Chamna is your true self, right? So remember, your Chamna is never tired. Forget the body, a heap of 4. The fleeting self, a heap of 5. Put the needs of others before your transient life. Put the tiredness of others before your own tiredness. Put the sleepiness of others before your own sleepiness. Put the suffering of others before your own suffering. Put the pain of others before your own pain. Put the hunger of others before your own hunger. Put the sorrow of others before your own sorrow. Put the anger of others before your own anger. For in doing so, the boundaries of the ego self dissolve into unbridled freedom.
That's very nice.
And so this was my implementation of this philosophy of sort of self sacrifice, if you will. You know, so this kind of lofty goal of phase one of wanting to tend to somebody else, or in as selfless a way as possible. And as my spiritual training and dare I say growth and development continued, something unsavory began to waft out of this principle of tending to somebody else in a selfless way. And so there's an evolution. You know, there's the tending to somebody because you're obligated to. And like you said, there's a heaviness about it.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely where the burnout comes very quickly, right? Because there's a calculating mind that play all the time. Well, I've given you X amount of time. I've given you X amount of energy. I've given you X amount of hours. I've given you X amount of my time. And usually the calculation also goes, I've taken away this time to give you from something else. I've taken away my energy from something else to this. So it's this, you know, transferring from one bank account to the other kind of transactionary mindset.
And those words you described give me a sense of feeling like there was a loss.
Right. And the depletion.
That transaction, there's a loss, right?
And so the Buddha has a fantastic line, and which sutra in particular it's from, I can't recall, but the line is, you can light 1,000 candles, can be lighted from a single candle. And the flame of the single candle will not be diminished.
Right.
Oof.
Yes. Your happiness has never been depleted by making others happy.
Right. Right. And 1,000 candles can be lit from a single candle, and that candle itself is not depleted. What a beautiful image for one. On so many levels, because then there's so much brightness in the world. There's so many other candles that then hopefully could do the same. So if 1,000 candles are lit from one, and then each one of those lights another 1,000, that's a lot of light in the world.
It is.
That's one thing. The other thing is it cancels out this calculating mathematical mind that leads to burnout. Because burnout, right, suggests that the candle itself is being burnt out, and then eventually there will be no light in and of itself, and you have to buy another candle or something. The thing to focus on is the light, the flame itself. In our lives, I mean, Yolban, nirvana, right, is the snuffing out of the candle, which means it could be relit. Right? And so this idea of this light, the flame being passed on, if the mind then again kind of gets bogged down with, oh, well, the candle will burn out. The candle of this physical form and this physical life might be burnt out, but the light of our true nature is never depleted, right? Even if the candle is gone, the light itself, the flame itself is never depleted. And so it's how you orient yourself. That's why in that little thing I wrote, you know, your chamna is never tired.
Right.
Your true nature is never tired. This idea of tiredness belongs to another dimension of who we are.
That reminds me of the story of Binja when she gave a lock,
there's a lock of hairs,
hair.
right? Yeah. And you know, so there's that evolution of caring for somebody out of obligation, which then carries with it, you know, a very quick tendency to burn out, and that because it has the mindset of this mathematical, calculating, transactionary way of looking at it. And then there's this loftier self, the loftier way of looking at it, which is, you know, the lofty, holy sacrifice of self for another, which at first glance sounds very religious, very pious, very spiritual, very lofty, very nice, very this. But when you introduce the word sacrifice, your loss, your calculating thing comes right back in. The calculating mind, a sacrifice means something is broken, something is given up, right? And you're just giving it up, and you're just being graceful about it, but nonetheless you're giving it up. So that's why I said something unsavory was wafting from this idea of this seemingly more evolved spiritual approach to caring for somebody else selflessly.
Isn't there sometimes attached to that this notion that I love helping others because
Makes me feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fine. Listen, all of these things, right?
These are not. This is a continuum.
Right. Right. That's why I said like phase one, phase two, and everything's evolving. Everything is in a state of flux and evolution, and hopefully evolution towards the better outcomes. So
one has to work through these stages.
Right.
One doesn't go, elementary school to college. You have
Yes.
to work through the.
Right.
Yep.
And if you go from elementary school to college, you're a savant, and you
Something
miss
else
out.
is missing.
You miss out on your social, interaction with your friends, and you guys, that kind of thing. So it's a normal thing. So we're not by any means saying like, oh well, if you're caring for somebody else and you come home and you're tired, you're a loser. Right? That's not it. But so there's that, phase one, stage one, whatever you want to call it, of caring out of obligation. Then there's the loftier, fancier one of caring out of caring for others selflessly. And that's beautiful, and it seems like, well, we've arrived, right? We've arrived. And if I could completely tend to the other one and do so selflessly, then I've arrived at the bodhisattvahood expression of my spiritual evolution. No. Because if we think a little bit about the famous, overquoted, frequently misunderstood and misused lines from the Kumgangyong, Mu Asang, Mu In Sang, Mu Chung Sang Sang, Mu Suja Sang, no self, no other, that whole thing. At first glance we could say, well, that is it. I'm tending to somebody else selflessly. Then who the hell is doing the tending if your self doesn't exist, right? What are you? Just you're an outline of yourself? You're a shadow of you? What gut existence do you have? You have no intestines now? You have no brain? What are you? Just a shell?
It's ephemeral.
Yeah,
It's just the ether is there, and just
it's a fancy, self-cajoling way of being. Look at me being selfless. Nonsense. Selfless. Then who's helping? I don't want to be helped by a selfless somebody. They don't even have a self. How can they help me self if they don't have themselves? Right?
It's again almost like someone trying to take philosophy and misunderstanding it and then polarizing it once again.
Right.
People they have a very hard time merging these two things because in their minds they tend to feel as though they're in opposition to one another. Like, okay, tend to this person. It's my duty. Wait, if I hold on too strong to my ego, here are the things that can happen, right? I can be angry. I can be resentful. I don't make good fortune. All right. Then they read the Kumgangyong and they're like, beautiful. I found it. I got it. Then they swing the pendulum in the other direction, right? No, now I'm going to help, and there's going to be no self, right? And then they're just giving to the other until they grind themselves into a pulp, only to realize that I just lost myself in this whole exchange. What do I do? Right? There's the panic that sets in. They're stuck in these extremes. Once again.
Right. So there's a very mundane, let's call it that maybe, very mundane duality, and that the mind, the mundane mind perpetuates the duality by thinking I am tending to another out of obligation, and there's the calculation of self and other, and I've given up too much of myself, so there's a mathematical thing. There's a minus of me, and therefore I'm spent. Right? And then the second stage, or the second kind of phase of spiritual growth is, all right, well, if I don't have a self, that there can't be a negation of myself because I've given selflessly to begin with. And then now, yet another level of evolution suggests, how can the selfless you give to another if the truth is that selflessness is universally also a fundamental state of them? So a selfless me giving to somebody who's not selfless, who needs giving, it's a fancier duality, but a duality nonetheless. So I am selfless, but this person there isn't selfless. I have to give to them.
They're demanding,
or you know, and even if it's not
have a need,
right, even if it's not the demand, but it's the need, right? And so it still splits into the duality of things. And so this is why I'm suggesting this idea that there is no such thing truly as selfless care. Because in the end, however you want to look at it, and this is where we come to the point where words are slippery, because I want to say if every care that we do is selfish, but it's not selfish in that same way, like we said, like, I feel good by helping, selfish. It's selfish in a way that if my knee itches and I scratch it, right, I don't then go and throw a parade for my hand that has scratched the knee and given a plaque and a key to the city,
the great hero,
because the great hero had come to the service and served the itchiness of the knee, and the knee hasn't any fingers, and so couldn't scratch itself. Praise the hero of the hand that scratched the knee. Right? We don't do that. Right? You have an itch, you scratch the itch, you go out by your business. Half the time you don't even realize you've scratched the itch because there is no need for it. It's naturally so. The hand is called to, scratches the thing, goes about its business, and nobody here pauses and goes, well, knee doesn't go, and I want to send a thank you flower, bouquet of flowers to the hand for tending to my thing. Why? Because it's one. The hand seemingly is a separate thing from the knee, but the hand's connected to the wrist connected to the forearm connected to the upper arm, connected to the shoulder, connected to the shoulder, connected to the hip, connected to the thigh, connected to the knee.
There really is no separation, just in the terms that we use.
Hand is the knee. Knee is the hand. The itch in the knee is the itch in the hand. So is the hand scratching the knee, or is the knee scratching the hand? All of those things disappear. And the nonchalant way of scratching an itch, or when you have a pang of pain and your hand naturally goes over, something, my rib, oh, my head, and the hand just goes over there. You're not thinking, I should send a letter, for the ambulance of the hand to come to the head and go, are you okay? Right? It's as natural as it gets. And this is where the Zen masters kind of throw their head back and laugh at the simplicity of enlightenment. And they say things like, it's as easy as touching your nose, right? Because it's not convoluted and complicated by all these thinking going on. all this calculating going on. I'm tending to the other out of obligation, so there's a depletion of self, so I have to tend to myself. Oh, okay, there is no me to tend to, so I will tend to the other. Well, if there's no me to tend to, then the other hasn't a me to tend to either. So what are you tending to? It's one nothing tending to another nothing. That makes sense. And also the psychologically damaging implications of no self, as much as it is, applauded in the Western Buddhist scene, on the account of, and I think it's a sort of counterculture, counter-establishment move away from the egocentrically driven societal tendencies. And so, well, but I don't believe in a self, so I'm an outcast. I'm cool by thinking there's no self, kind of thing. So,
when I was listening to you, I was almost feeling as though you were describing, on one hand, the sabasege mind, where the hand scratches the knee, and the hand remembers and says, why should I even do this? The last time I scratched you,
you
5
never
minutes
said thank
later,
you.
you never said thank you, or 5 minutes later,
You
just
itched
itched
again.
again.
Yeah.
And the mind of a yolban, or enlightenment, where there's a true, direct experience and understanding of the oneness. And that's very hard to then put into words. But it almost feels like the essence acts in accordance with the Dharma. And there's a freedom there that's, again, beyond words. But it's so appealing and enticing to me.
There's non-depleting.
It's yeah.
I mean, this is Heart Sutra.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no hindrance.
No hindrance. No clean, no dirty.
Yeah.
No expansion or growth or depletion. Right? No big and no small. No this and no that. At first glance, Heart Sutra, it's 200 and something letters, whatever. But we just seize on the one concept. Essentially, what we're talking about is this no expanding, no depleting kind of thing, or no big and small, no, which on the other hand, this could be confusing because then we have everything is in constant flux and everything is in a state of constant change. How come you're saying that there is essentially no change type of thing? There are two different realms, so we mustn't mix apples and oranges, and that's what's frequently done, right? It's the, on the account of one, everything is then plunged into the same bucket, and the thinking, the intellectualization causes the confusion. I recently was talking about somewhere, I don't know, about the idea of I'm confused, right? Let's say you give a teaching and somebody says, well, I'm confused, and and we could say, well, I'm sorry, my expedient means, my means of explaining this are insufficient. I apologize for my inability to convey a thing sufficiently enough for you to understand. And it's true, language sucks. The translation of ephemeral into material, and then to pull out of the world examples that then convey the thing that the mind has yet to experience, it's an absurd concept. But on a more profound level, when a person says, well, I'm confused, right? Or, oh, Sinim, you're confusing me by saying X, Y, and Z. There is no such thing as you're confusing me. There's no such thing as that is confusing me. Confusion arises purely and solely from the mind of the person who's confusing themselves by trying to match the wrong 고정관념, their experience, their experience, to something that doesn't match the experience. So they're trying to match two things.
Two things that don't go together.
Right. And then they say, I'm confused. You're not confused. You're just not learning a new thing. You're matching it. It's a confirmation bias. It's a confusion, right? It doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense because you're trying to make sense from whatever knowledge you possess, but nonetheless, whatever knowledge we possess at any point in time is limited knowledge.
Right. That real quick, that point you made reminded me of our conversation when we were going for a walk and we're talking about doors. And because we know that doors are,
Yes.
rectangles, and then instantly our teacher was talking about doors, but they weren't doors that were rectangular, made of wood with hinges on it.
Right.
And I think someone that was in that lecture didn't understand what he was referring to.
Right.
Because of that. His past knowledge interfered with the ability to see things differently.
Yeah.
Because these are the doors that I know. These must be the doors that, ants use those kinds of doors
Right.
too?
Ants
Right?
have rectangular doors with hinges,
Right.
doorknobs, and a doorbell, and a
They
ring
have
doorbell.
doors, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's absolutely that. It's
our Kojun our
yeah.
past habits, past experiences, essentially are like a dam that prevent us from breaking
Right.
through.
So you say, go find the door, and in this room, there's only one door, and sometimes there's only one door. Well, from which perspective are you looking? If there was only one door, or if there was no door, we would all die of oxygen depletion. But oxygen has a door. It comes in through cracks. It comes in through the sound comes through the walls. Why? Because there's a door that the sound could make it through. Bugs come in.
The satellite door with a little round hole in it.
Yeah.
It's not rectangular at all.
Right.
That's the door of sound that gets into my brain.
Yeah, and so when you're insanim, when you're kunsanim says a thing, and the person goes into the box of their pre-existing knowledge and rifles through it, and says, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." It's in a sense belittling of that thing being said, because it's like essentially what we're kind of saying is like, I already knew that. Right, because I had the kit, I had the set of these particular tools, but we have to utilize that, because otherwise, it's difficult to convey anything. So these are the intricacies and the difficulties and the trappings of language. When you mentioned the door, I don't remember where and when. I think it was you and I, and this is epochs ago. We were somewhere, and as you mentioned, though, there's an image that came to my mind of, I don't know if it was an art piece or just some random thing. There was just a door in a garden, just a standing door, no door frame, just a door, as if somebody just stood a door upright, as it were, right? And I don't know if it was an art piece or something or other. But this conjures up another concept, and perhaps a concept for another episode. That there are no doors that come in or go out.
Right.
Right. The door itself doesn't hold that identification. Oh, this door here. What is it? Well, which side of the door are you on?
Creates the coming in
Right.
and going out.
So this is I'm inside now, and the door dictates I'm inside, and the outside of the door is the outside. But if you're outside, that's an inside to this outside, and this door that was just kind of an open field, right? So it's like, all right, is it an outside door or is it an inside door? Right? If I'm standing on one side of the door, am I on the inside of something or I'm on the outside of something? And the door didn't plunge the mind to the designation of here and there, and back to the Heart Sutra.
Right.
It's not, is it the coming? Am I coming or am I going? Right? And there's a true nature sort of, we have the sayings like the Buddha doesn't come or doesn't go, doesn't stand or, doesn't lie down, that kind of thing. And it's this kind of idea. Well, like, am I coming or am I going? I see this door, and if I enter through it, have I left or have I arrived?
And I think almost the Heart Sutra points to the absurdity of these concepts when you look at it, when you zoom out and you look at it from this perspective. Because how absurd is this idea of a door in empty space?
Right, but it's more true. It's the truth. When the Yuma-gyong...
Why do you need a door when the empty space is...
Well,
when you can freely go from A to B or Z or Y or X to whatever direction.
but that's the thing. See, we blame the door for its designation, but the mind casts the designation, and the selfness casts the designation.
Now you collapse
and the
mind.
duality
You
casts the
collapse the
designations
mind from
Right.
its original state. You box yourself in with these concepts of now there's an inside and an outside, and there's a door, which is essentially an idea of a hindrance, and there's an inside, outside, coming and going.
Right, and it's the organizing of the mind. Because if we're talking, if you're in a cafe and having a coffee and say which door do I exit through, right? And somebody says, or you're standing there and somebody says, oh, you could leave through that door, and you say, grasshopper, but there's no leaving or coming, there's no going or staying, and they were like, all right, you'd never come back here again, no coffee for you.
You earn yourself a weekend stay at
A
Bellevue
spiritual
Hospital.
weirdo. This is what I call a spiritual weirdo.
In New York City, sure.
We have to know, as we navigate the world, we have to know which dimension of existence am I in, or am I participating in? Because you could walk through a door to go outside, right? But you could also simultaneously have the understanding that this idea of the inside and outside is just that. It's an idea. When Yuma-gosa is visited by the entourage of the bodhisattvas and the disciples of the Buddha, first thing he says to the visiting bodhisattva, who finally musters the only one out of all of them who says, I will go and see this great man. And he says, you have come without leaving. You have arrived without having gone, or something to that effect. And it's that kind of thing. It's the direct pointing to, it's a question or a comment. It's a temperature check. How much of the truth are you in possession of? And so that statement, because if you make a statement like this to somebody, they're going to be like, oh, right, yeah, I'm going to just make a quick phone call to the Bellevue Hospital,
Right.
because you're weird. But in the context of the Sangha, and I've recently talked about how the temple and everything we do is an opportunity for Suheng. When you come in through the doors, don't think, if you're washing dishes here at the Zen Center, don't think it's the same dishes and the same washing of dishes that you're doing at home. Because we don't see our Sangha members on a daily basis the way you do in a cloistered sort of life of monastery. So when you come in here, you change your mind, and you're washing the dishes. You're not just washing the dishes. There's a dharma, there's a Zen master dish, there's Zen master sponge, there's a Zen master soap, there's Zen master water running out of thing. Everything is available to your realization right under your nose, which you can't necessarily afford outside because you have life to live. But at some point in time, we have to take the time to try on the shoes to see how this dharma thinking fits into daily lives and things. But anyway, don't want to meander too far away from the topic of the day.
Yeah, well, it's all pertinent, right? Because I think when your mind collapses, as we all know, and it becomes very small, there's no room in your heart for compassion and helping others, essentially, right? So a lot of these concepts are not to turn you into a spiritual weirdo, but to give you a tool to melt the glue when your feet get stuck in a certain place.
Why do you so vulgarly curse at me with words like compassion and helping others?
Helping myself.
Helping?
Helping, period.
No helping.
The one body continue
helping
to thrive.
Helping is a duality.
Right.
Because where there's helping, there's a needing of the helping. And again, splits the thing.
Right.
Your hand doesn't think it's helping when it scratches the knee. Right? It just does it. It doesn't have a thought. It's as natural as it gets, and as thoughtless in a sense as it gets, and as pure, virgin, and true as it gets. And it's our interjection of our thinking, which brings in calculation, which brings in differentiation, judgments, the dualities of that and this and you and I and all of that.
And people that perform at the best, at the peak of their when someone is at the peak of their performance in whatever duty it is that they're in, and they can do that for an extended period of time, for example, maybe an athlete or a therapist that deals with people's heartaches and suffering and traumas, or someone that's in the emergency room all night long, and someone who's outside of that and looks, I hear this question all the time: how can you do that?
Right.
And when you speak to people that really are functioning in, or get into, I have to use terms of some sort, right? Like athletes almost describe when things are working and perfectly flowing, like they're in the flow, they're in the zone, or they're in the flow, right? And that's in essence what we're talking about when you're engaging in your duty, and you're not thinking, they're not thinking they're helping at the time.
And this is where we're come to this point of, do you call it the dissolution of self and other, dissolving of self and other, or do you call it the unification of self and other? And either way, it's wrong.
Right.
Whether you call it the dissolving, myself dissolves into this action, right, and me and the other dissolve of their kind of being into some other amorphous thing. Or is it that we are unified, and as much as this is where the language we're at the tail end of language capacity, right? Because they're both true, right? It's the dissolving of one and the other. It's the unifying of both, and both of these statements are false and wrong too. So it's just the doing, and
it's almost like a person walking on a tightrope, one foot in front of the other. They're just doing. And it's almost as if the second the mind notices that it's doing something, in a split second they're distracted and they lose their balance. It's just doing.
You know what I like the imagery of is those massive flocks of birds or fishes. And you see them, and they change direction as if it was one organism, just on the spot. Yeah. Everybody 90 degrees, 5,000 of them.
Controlled?
Yeah, 5,000 of them just made a 90-degree turn. Right. None of them was going through the shopping list in their head, because this is how you rear end the bird in front of you. Right. It's talk about the flow.
Right.
What's interesting is there was a cleaning lady. Songsim and I were at Sewell's at the hospital, and a cleaning lady comes in, and she goes, is it okay? I'm going to come back later. I'm like, no. I said, please come on in. And as she's cleaning, and where's my own personal trumpet so I could trumpet it? Myung-an. Right? So I saw the heart of the woman cleaning. And I asked her, I said, may I ask you a personal question? Which, I wouldn't do otherwise, because if you don't recognize the heart of the person, you're going to be like, oh, okay, weirdo, I'm never cleaning this room again, right? So I said, may I ask you a personal question? And she was like, yeah. So she keeps cleaning. I said, when you're cleaning the floor, what are you thinking of? The floor or the patient? And she stops. She's like, wait. You got to run this by me again. Right. I said, when you're cleaning the floor, what is in your mind? You cleaning the floor and thinking of the floor and the cleaning of the floor, or you're thinking of cleaning of the floor in the relationship to the patient or the patient? She's like, looks at me like, what are you? Later she asks, I said, I'm a Buddhist monk. She's like, oh.
That's why.
Right. But she says, I think about the comfort of the person. A clean space, whatever. And I look, and it's like, if they need water, I can't get them water, right? because I'm not allowed. It's the the policies, but I'll go and tell the nurse to get them water. If I see that they're trying to get water and they don't have water, I'm not just gonna be like, I'm here to clean the floors and that's all I'm here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the heart of this person as such, and that's why I asked, because I think largely and frequently a person with a heart like this kind of stealth ninja bodhisattva,
Mm-hmm.
undercover, doing their seemingly, mundane task of mopping and cleaning the floors, but who also looks up from that task of theirs and sees a human being and takes stock of the whole situation, and if sees a thirsty person, goes and gets somebody to get them water. It is an incognito, undercover bodhisattva, but they are frequently not given the thanks, and they're not looking for it actively, I think. But
my goodness, if I had a family member or a child that needed a place to stay, or if they had to go to the hospital, this is the kind of lady
Right.
that I would want cleaning my child's room.
Right. And so, I said, that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. And I said, I saw your heart, that's why I asked. And she's like, oh my God, you're gonna make me cry, because it's true. They just do. They're not being paid for cleaning of the floors, right? So that calculating mind is not at work.
Right.
The cleaning the floors as my task, right? But the calculating mind's like, I only get this beyond my pay grade thinking isn't there. And there's a practically, within practical parameters, like she said, I can't get water for the person because I'm not allowed. That's the, hospital policy. But I will get somebody who can get them water. Tell me what bodhisattvas do if not fetch the appropriate bodhisattva to do the work, or order or demand or decree. The Buddhas say, you, the bodhisattva of such and such, go and do that. And some bodhisattvas have a mop in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good place to finish today.
Yeah.
Thank you all for for your thoughts and your prayers for Sewell. Thank you for you reaching out, offering your support. I mean, we've had offers of what's her blood type.
Mm-hmm.
I am A positive. If you need blood, tell me. To does she need food? Does she need whatever? To financial offerings, to all these things for support.
Care packages.
It is a living sangha. My heart springs when this whole situation is unfolding, in a sense, on the account of the living Dharma. We are so blessed that our community, our sangha, our temple family, is not so intellectually crippled that the hearts don't beat. There's a thinking that strangles the heart and the humanity, kind of thinking that does that, and I'm so honored to have a sangha that is a breathing human organism, as the sangha is the unified family, the way that inner organs of single body are, and inner individual cells are of a single body. And so I just want to express my deep gratitude, and Sewell does too, of course, for all of that. And thank you for that beautiful expression of what the meaning of the word sangha truly is, and what the meaning of living tradition. We are, our tradition we call Senghwal-bulgyo. Senghwal-bulgyo means in daily life, the Buddhism of daily life, the Zen of daily life. We're not inhaling the dusty collection of dust and great, deep, profound books and sutras, pouring over them, bleeding from their eyes, getting,
Yeah.
it's a life.
Deep,
There's
profound words don't clean the pus from an open wound.
Right. And so thank you for all of that.
It really is very beautiful to see this
Right.
living Dharma,
Absolutely.
this one body, one
Mhm.
Sangha, truly implement the teachings of the Bodhisattvas.
And so, this has been to some degree, not totally, our absence from the studio, from these podcasts. I hope we are forgiven. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And now you know in which way to do so. Right? Take care of yourselves and each other. I'm Myung-An Sanim.
I'm Dr. Ruben Lambert.
Subscribe, click, support,
If you like what you hear,
all that.
be selfless and share it with others.
Right.
Pass it on.
Until next time. And if you have a topic suggestion, as per usual,
Yes, send it.
you know how to do
Send
that.
it our way.
Yes. Thank you.